Nobody came to find him. There was no funeral, no tribute, no monument with his name on it, no chapter in a history book, no moment in the final battle where someone held up his memory and said, "He did this, he tried." There was just a cave, a black lake, a boy who went in knowing he would not come out. And he was 18 years old. His name was Regulus Arcturus Black. And if you have read these books more than once, and you have spent any time at all thinking about what courage actually looks like, you already know what I'm about to say. He was the bravest character in Harry Potter. Not Harry, not Dumbledore, not Neville Longbottom standing at the end with a sword. Him, the Death Eater, the one who made the wrong choice first. Let me show you why. Regulus Black grew up in a house that had one way of seeing the world. Pureblood, superior, chosen. The Black family home on Grimmauld Place had a tapestry on the wall with every family member stitched into it. And certain names had been burnt off, blasted out, removed with magic and left as scorch marks because those members had chosen wrong. His brother was one of them. Sirius Black went to Hogwarts and got sorted into Gryffindor. He made friends with a half-blood boy from a modest family. He laughed at the ideology his parents had spent 16 years pouring into him. And eventually, he walked out the door and did not come back. Regulus did not do that. Regulus was sorted into Slytherin. He was quiet and clever and serious. He became a prefect. He believed, or told himself he believed, which is perhaps a different thing, in everything his family had always told him. In the cause, in the mission, in Lord Voldemort, he became a Death Eater at 16. 16. Not because he was evil in the way we usually mean evil. Not because he was cruel for the pleasure of it, the way Bellatrix was, the way some of them were, but because he had been handed a story about the world, and he had not yet had a reason to question it. That reason was coming. Voldemort needed a place to hide something. Something important. Something that could not be found, could not be destroyed, could not be touched by ordinary hands. A locket, one of his Horcruxes, a piece of his soul, and he needed a test, so he asked for a house elf. House elves cannot lie. House elves are bound by magic to their masters. House elves are, in the logic of the wizarding world, not quite people, which means if you use one for something terrible, it barely counts. Kreacher was Regulus's house elf. Regulus gave him to Voldemort, and Voldemort took Kreacher to a cave on the coast, in the dark, with a black lake full of inferi, dead bodies, reanimated corpses that would drag you under the water if you touched the surface. And he made Kreacher drink an entire basin of potion. A potion that caused unbearable pain. That forced you to see the worst things you had ever seen. That made you want to stop. That made you beg for it to stop. And when Kreacher had drunk all of it, when he had placed the locket in the basin and filled it with water, Voldemort left. He left Kreacher there. He left him to die in that cave, alone, with the inferi in the water, because he was a house elf, and house elves did not matter, and Kreacher was not a person. Kreacher managed to escape. He disapparated, which Voldemort had not thought to prevent, because who plans for the survival of something they considered disposable? He came back to Regulus, and he told him what had happened. Think about what Regulus knows at this moment. He knows Voldemort used his house elf as a test subject. He knows Voldemort left Kreacher to die. He knows Voldemort does not see people, not even his own followers, as anything other than instruments. And he knows something else, something far more dangerous. He knows about the Horcrux. He has been a Death Eater long enough, clever enough, trusted enough, to understand what Voldemort was doing in that cave. He knows what a Horcrux is. He knows what it means. He knows that the locket in that basin is the reason Voldemort cannot die. And he makes a decision, not loud, not announced, not written in the sky. He orders Kreacher to take him to the cave. He tells Kreacher exactly what they are going to do. Swap the real locket for a fake. Replace the Horcrux with a copy. Leave a note inside. Just a note. Just a few lines, signed with his initials. R.A.B. A message to the person who would eventually find it. To the Dark Lord, I know your secret. I face death in the hope that when you meet your match, you will be mortal once more. And then he tells Kreacher the most important thing. He tells him to leave. He tells him, when I drink the potion, when I am no longer able to tell you to go, when I am screaming and begging and past all rational thought, you take the locket and you leave me here. You go home. You destroy it. He tells Kreacher he has to leave him behind. He has already accepted that he will not be saved. Let us talk about bravery for a moment. Harry Potter was brave. Unquestionably. He walked into the Forbidden Forest at 17 and let Voldemort kill him. That is not nothing. That takes everything. But Harry had been prepared for it. From the moment he found out he was the chosen one, the story had been building to that moment. He had Dumbledore, who, whatever his failures, had been pointing toward it for years. He had Ron and Hermione. He had the knowledge that his death would mean something, that people would know, that it would matter. Regulus had none of that. Regulus was 18 years old. He had no prophecy, no mentor, no destiny. He was a Death Eater who had made a terrible mistake and had decided, very quietly, to try to undo it. Nobody knew, not his parents, not Sirius, who had given up on him years before, not any of the Order of the Phoenix, not Dumbledore, not anyone who would have called it heroic or held it up or said, "Look what this boy did." He went to that cave knowing his name would never appear on the right side of history. He went knowing Kreacher could never tell anyone, because Kreacher had been ordered not to speak of it, and house elves cannot disobey direct orders. He went knowing Voldemort would never know he had been betrayed. He went into the dark, alone, to do something that would help a cause he had spent years fighting against, for a war that he would not survive to see the end of. And he did it anyway, not for glory, not for recognition, not because a prophecy said he had to, because it was the right thing. That is not just bravery, that is the purest definition of it. Harry finds the fake locket in the cave in Deathly Hallows and does not yet know what it means. He carries it for months. He and Ron and Hermione pass it between them, wear it round their necks, feel it making them darker and angrier and smaller. That locket, the copy, hangs around their necks for half the book. And the whole time, the real Horcrux is at Grimmauld Place, in Kreacher's Nest, hidden and guarded by a house elf who has been trying to fulfill his master's final order for 16 years. Destroy it. His master told him to destroy it. He has not been able to. He has kept it, he has tried, he has failed. And he has kept trying. When Harry finally asks Kreacher about Regulus, really asks with kindness, with patience, with the same regard for Kreacher that Regulus once had, the story comes out. And it is devastating. Because Kreacher loved him. That is the thing. In a house full of cruelty and coldness, Regulus had been kind to Kreacher, had spoken to him with decency, had, in the end, trusted him with the most important thing he would ever do, and Kreacher had carried that for 16 years. He had kept the locket and guarded it, and hated himself for failing, because his master had told him to destroy it, and he could not, and his master was dead, and there was nobody left who remembered that Regulus Black had ever done anything worth remembering. Until Harry. J.K. Rowling hid Regulus Black in plain sight. His name appears in the books early. Sirius mentions him, dismisses him, says he died for a cause he was foolish enough to believe in. There is a scorch mark on the tapestry where his name used to be. And then he is gone. A footnote. And then, hundreds of pages later, you find out. You find out that the Death Eater who supposedly died for Voldemort actually died trying to stop him. That he did it in secret, without witnesses, without a plan for what came after, because there was no after for him. That he left a note that nobody found in time. That his house elf spent 16 years guarding the thing he couldn't destroy. That the bravest act in the entire series happened in a cave in the dark. With no one watching. Dumbledore never knew. Voldemort never knew. Harry only found out by accident. And that is what makes it the bravest thing in these books. Not the action, not the sacrifice, not the magic or the mission, or even the outcome. The fact that Regulus Black was 18 years old, and he had made terrible choices, and he knew exactly what he had become. And he walked into that cave anyway, knowing nobody would ever call him a hero. And he was right. Nobody ever did.